Yeah.
All okay? Good, thank you. Call this public meeting of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Welcome to the meeting, and Cleet, I believe you're starting us off with an operations update.
We have some pictures for us to look at this afternoon, and I have most of these. The first 13 are numbered, then those were pre-spring break, and so we've had some. I've added 4 or 5 of them just when we got back to kind of show you where we're at and how we're progressing. But you can, I got a little laser pointer here, so here's the athletic facility. This is the dressing rooms, girls over here, boys over here, weight room, and the 2 main gyms, and the front of the building's right up in this area, and this is the stage area. And then working on area D, which we just showed you, this is when they're starting to put the CMU blocks going up, and these are the load-bearing walls on the outside. Just that part I showed you, here's the stage, here's the kitchen area back in here with all the plumbing coming in. The front of the building is right, this is fine arts, and the front's right over here, and you can see here's the elevator pad that's going in. And then these will be the dumpsters back in the back toward the kitchen area. Just more plumbing on the outside, how it all ties together before they cover it up. You see the grade beam right in here. Here's the piers down in here, grade beam, pier. Just kind of a repeat. There's the elevator. Here's the front part of the building. They build a little bridge right over there so they can get their equipment in there. And then you can see this is science part over here. You can see these grade beams here. These will be load-bearing walls right in here. Just working on the elevator pit. And as you can see, it's just all solid rock all around that place. Area B, which would be right in here. And B and C, just getting ready for the edge forms, getting ready for the pour. And basically the 6th grade area. It's going crazy here. Anyway, that big part in the middle, that's area C. A good picture of the geo wells. So you see the lateral lines, and so the wells are right there to the edge of it, and they tie into these lateral lines, and then they'll flow into the parts of the building.
Are you in a helicopter taking these, or how you?
A drone.
Drone taking them.
And back in the back, you can kind of see, this is where our extra spoils are going, and so that'll tie into a future elementary site. So we're just, it'll be a lot flatter back in the back, give us a little more space to build on that, and playgrounds and such. Close up of the wells, lateral lines. And just what I was mentioning, and here's that elementary site, and then here's the spoils we're putting in. And they'll just feather them off, and they'll seed them, water it, so we'll have grass down there. So you're going to have to cover up all the rocks, so it'll be smooth. This is the large football area. Next. It's going crazy.
Chisholm Trails baseball.
Yeah, I'm going everywhere.
Softball.
Anyway, the brown area with the truck in the middle, that's the north-south football.
What's going to be, is there a road between Chisholm and Marine Creek? We got a fence going in there?
Yeah, there's a fence that already exists over there.
Yeah.
The road that moves in the back, right here. This was after spring break, so you still have the lateral lines are open. They're being pressured so that we make sure that there's no leaks in them, but you can see the gym is going vertical with the CMU blocks. And then the fine arts in the front and the cafeteria, that was the day before it was supposed to be poured, but it rained, obviously, so we had to wait. We lost a week there. Just another picture of it kind of moving around. And you've seen these, but it's just a week and a half later, and how it's moving along. And another picture of the football field. They're about completed with that, moisture conditioning it, and it's shaping up. Obviously, the track will be around it, and where the red dot laser is, that's a slope. There's some geo wells also in that area. And just another close-up of athletics.
Geo wells are mostly under the parking lots or always under the parking lot?
Parking lots, little grass inlets. Try to keep them out of the fire lanes, because if you do have a leak, you've got 10 inches of that fire lane. I mean, more concrete, kind of harder to cut out, it's more expensive. So you just kind of move them around, try to keep them close. And so they're on, as you see the Hollenstein up there, there's geo wells. That'll be the last ones they bore right up in here. So they've worked all the way around here, here, and then toward the back down here.
You ever had any leaks or any problems with them?
Not these, but you get leaks occasionally.
I mean, minimal problem or?
It's just depending on really, it's to try to isolate a field. You isolate it, find out where it's at, then they have to, hopefully it's not under concrete, but it usually is. But we've had to do that 3 or 4 times. Did it at Chisholm Trail.
Still think it's a better deal than cost, yeah.
It's on your top of the line products, geo versus the rooftops. It's around 5.5 to 6 years now on the payback, the ROI on it. So it's but it just, you know, the energy code's getting trickier and trickier when you have to bring in more outside air, and we don't really get as much out of geo as I think they should give us credit for on that. So there's a lot of expense in the getting that air into the building. That's my slideshow. Just a few other things. We're at it in February, middle of February, we're at 15% on the project. So we're probably at 20% now. And on the capital improvements, you're still waiting on the wayside bleachers about mid-April. The fire panel, that bid process, they're 2 o'clock tomorrow, those proposals are coming in. So that's the Bryson and High Country panels. So once that is completed, they will simultaneously at both locations start putting those in. And so basically you have 2 systems. Bryson will have 2 systems. You can't take the other one off until the other one's in place. So we've got that one out, and we've got 2 proposals, one that would finish before school begins, and then we have one that finishes in October, depending on what best price, because the reality of it is we still have a system there. See if we, hopefully would go with a system where we don't pay a premium for labor if we had to condense it. So we looked at both those. Remington Point sidewalk still in engineering. The shade covers and tennis court covers, we're gonna name an architect hopefully tonight on that. I'll ask you for that. Working on the irrigation controls, the foyer in the back of Saginaw High School where it's real dark. So when the doors, you can look through, they're clear at the doors. The rest of it's dark, but the doors are clear so you can see the person coming and going. They were working on the fencing, and then the windows and blinds have been completed. Some attendance zone boundary modifications we've been looking at. We've been working with a demographer looking for Marine Creek Middle School and how Middle School 6 and all that combines, and how those feeder patterns come together. And it's there's no really one easy way to do that. I would like to align them to the high schools at that time, but it may be, we may have to wait a couple of years, I think, just to be prudent to see what our numbers look like. But I think we can get close to pure feeder. If not, it'll be pretty close. But we will be every 2 or 3 years tweaking some of that in anticipation of high school 4, just to get us some time and to figure out what those numbers end up looking like. But we're going through that process, and hopefully by the end of the year or something, I will start having meetings or something and let everybody know what we're looking at, kind of the goal.
Anticipate that you might not be able to do that? You said you're trying to. What would keep us from achieving that goal of having the true feeder patterns? Just the way that people move in?
It depends on how quickly Chisholm Trail grows.
Okay.
Because if I can say I could put them in Chisholm's Trail zone right now, but in 2 years, if Chisholm Trail gains 250 kids, then I'm gonna have to move those kids to another high school to give Chisholm Trail time before the fourth one opens up. So there might be some puzzle pieces that have to move at the very end.
So we might be able to decide whether it's best to move the kids twice to achieve the pure, if that's our
That's correct.
ultimate.
We'll have to, I think my fear is having to move them too many times
Yeah.
to get to that point.
Okay.
So that's what we're really studying pretty hard. No one likes to move, but I know they don't like moving multiple times. With Gold Star, we're just continue kind of watching the market on that. The labor market around this area is pretty tight, and those wages for drivers are going up. $17 up to the north. We're here to our east, there's over $17 at both those, what we're hearing. And then just recently, I just heard Parker County and Weatherford, they're going up to $18.50. So that market is getting very tight, and right now it's kind of a continuous thing because of the economy. They can find, but we can find full-time jobs, so that's what we're fighting. And then this labor market's getting tight. Might be something we want to consider, that adding to that contract to make sure we can retain our drivers. We've had a pretty good 2 years since we've negotiated that contract.
What are we paying right now?
$15.25.
Mr. Welch, do they have a recruiting season, or is it
It's
continuing?
constant.
It's continuing?
Like Friday, there's a couple of them, they just turn in the papers, they move to a permanent job, and we just keep them in the cycle. There's always somebody coming in, but it seems like somebody's always going out too. So, roughly a dollar raise for drivers, around $100,000, anywhere from 100 to 115. But I think that's something we probably want to look at for y'all's consideration. So, I think that's all I have. If there's any other questions.
Thank you. All right, next is Aspire 2022, Dr. Parker.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Dr. Chadwell, Board of Trustees. It is my pleasure to bring the Aspire 2022 update. As I go through our Aspire 2022 plan, please know that you are welcome to stop me and ask questions as we work through this. I'm going to highlight some key areas. There is absolutely no way I could cover everything that we're doing. But of course, it is built upon our mission, as well as the 3 goals that are student-focused. Proud to be a part of this group, and also wanted to let you know I left a book beside your desk there for you, and that's part of the book study that we're doing to prepare for our technology rollout plan. Our core beliefs lay the foundation of our work that are part of our 6 strategies that we have here in Aspire 2022. Our work is through the progress stages, and have included in this progress code the numerical information at the bottom. Our goal is to be at a 4 before 2022, and we're moving that way. I'm excited for you to see that in all 6 strategies, we are showing growth. We are finally in the developed stage in all 6 of these. We will go through them with, and I will highlight the work that we are doing. I chose to take a year view because I thought it was impressive, first of all, and second of all, we're showing about, in the last 6 months, a 2% increase in each area. First of all, when we get into strategy 1 and we're looking at personalized education plans, I want you to know that we are currently at a 3.0 and we have increased a 0.5 in this work. This has been key and instrumental with the work of several members in the educational services and other departments. We've created a website link to personalized education plan. Mariela Alvarado has been instrumental in that role in counseling. And she has information both for parents as well as students, which would include our career cruising plan. We've worked with classrooms to develop goal setting, and we've created more opportunities for our students to be future ready with tours of HCTC, as well invited 5th through 12th graders, not just our secondary students, to our college and career nights. Stacy Summerhill, and her team of coordinators have worked hard to create courses that address the needs of our advanced placement and our GT children through the AP Capstone, Humanities, and the Pre-AP courses, which next year for the first time in all of our core areas will be offered at the middle school. Something that I think is interesting and added in here is our drone certification program at HCTC. We are also increasing membership in our on-ramps partnership with University of Texas at Austin. Strategy 2 has increased 0.4. We are at a 3.5 status. This is what we came to you last spring with our, and asked for what you wanted to do with our technology plan so that we could move further. You answered the need, and we are extremely excited about our phase 1 rollout of technology in August of this year. To prepare for that work, we have been training educators and students. I'll show you a graph of information that shows our progress, but it's pretty incredible to have almost 9,000 students who are utilizing Canvas, and that's mainly at the secondary level. Second thing that you see there is Seesaw usage. This is an online portfolio accessed chiefly by our elementary schools, and we have over 8,000 artifacts of student work displayed. Have so many indeed that Seesaw contacted us to see if we wanted to move to the premium plan. Currently, we're on a free program, and of course, for a mere $5, I think a student we could add their premium package. We declined that, and we'll continue to use their free program as well as other resources that we have. Our communications has worked hard and been very focused with social media growth. I've listed several that we have there. We also are planning for our technology rollout with displays and devices such as you see here in our 90-inch display. Don't believe our classrooms will be quite as big. We're looking at 70 to 75 inches on those. Kirk and his team have worked steadily to check connectivity on campuses. They're working with ESC 11, and we should see an increase in our capacity in the next few months. It all depends on federal money, and we know how that all goes. This is a graph of the work that just gives you a visual representation of the increased use in Canvas, which this Canvas is all about student use as well as teachers' assignments. So that's pretty cool to see over 42,000 files uploaded. Office 365, which is the very small graph, I just put that up there. Both Kirk and I like that graph because it shows a 20% increase of students' use of OneDrive. In the OneDrive, that's where they house their assignments, and they're able to then pull them off of the cloud and work on those at home. As we move into strategy 3, this one is directly core. All of our strategies are integrated together, as you know. Strategy 3, we've really focused on bringing Karen Miller as Director of Continuous Improvement and Staff Development has been instrumental in our growth. It's only showing a 0.2. However, we're at a 3.6 here, and as we advance and get closer to that 4-point mark, it's harder and harder for us to show increases according to our rubrics. With this, we have very focused campus walk. We're utilizing a data protocol with our leaders. We've trained campus administrators who then in turn lay out that training for the teachers. We've utilized Karen also for our campus processes and our collaboration and alignment of training, our professional development, the expectations. I've mentioned many of these things in the board updates, so if you have specific questions, feel free to stop me and I'll be glad to answer those. We're utilizing the Plan, Do, Study, Act, or PDSA model, where our teachers plan for the learning. They design that. Then, once it's implemented, they study and they act on what needs to be retaught and reworked. This connects to our goal setting in the classroom, which is happening both at the classroom level and with individual students. We went back to ICLE and asked them to send us consultants in the collaborative instructional review. The purpose of that was to train all campus administrators as well as our coordinators for feedback to teachers and how they can move those lessons into higher levels of rigor and relevance. That's been very beneficial, and we'll continue that work with them. And finally, our curriculum learning communities meet and plan for student learning. This is in all core content areas as well. In strategy 4, we are now at a 3.3. This is, strategy also connects to Strategy 1 and the development of the personalized education plans. We know without a safe learning environment, our students are not going to be at their highest level of performance. This takes all of us working together, and this Strategy 4 hits so many different areas of our work. Everything from Renaissance, which is a celebration of students and student achievement, teachers and staff members, from the custodians and cafeteria workers to the teachers and everyone on the campus, as well as our character education program. We have a strong partnership with Lions Quest and the work that they are doing. Our program development, I've mentioned earlier about increased opportunities for advanced placement in GT, as well as this year we are offering this coming year the humanities course. I'm excited about this summer. We're working for an intervention. We're running a 2-week intervention for our struggling early literacy learners. And so we'll be targeting our children who are at most need in the area of reading and using our specialists for that program. The media awareness training has been set up by our counseling department. Dr. Kathy Cook, you may know her. She's from our area. She was the consultant in Kirk Cameron's recent movie of Connect. She'll be speaking to teens and parents this Thursday at the HDC, the Halfley Development Center, about video messaging and choices and consequences of that. She tells it straight. She's really good. And then, of course, I've already mentioned rigor and relevance, and you know our bond and technology plans move forward. Strategy 5, we are at a 3.5 with a 0.6 progress. This strategy has shown our greatest growth, 15% in 1 year. It's focused just not on formal evaluations, but also on utilizing outside sources such as Hanover to do some of our program evaluations. They're currently working with our intervention program at the elementary. They're finishing that one as they're and working on middle school intervention. They've sent me a short report telling us that our intervention is working, but they haven't given me the specificity that I would like, so I've sent them back to the data to make that report more thorough. We're on progress. Action plans 2 and 3 are both, as we move in here, are showing proficient, so we're at a level 4 in those areas. That has to do with review of our excellent targets as well as our appraisal system. We are working program evaluation. I've talked a little about Karen Miller. She's been instrumental in that work and process alignment and making sure our processes are written down and followed. In addition to that, thanks to you guys approving our coordinator for data analysis, Tricia Lovett, has been key in getting reports to the federal level. We had a major equity report to fill out for the federal government, and she spent most of the first semester working on that. It was quite tedious, as well as giving us longitudinal data so that we're able to better plan. Our student learning objective development, we piloted with 5 schools this year. Dr. Barnes and Lisa Dunn developed this opportunity to go into the teacher growth model. And in that is where we focus is back to Strategy 1 and personalized education plan and setting goals, children setting goals for their learning. We'll be bringing a report to the board next month. I've already talked about alignment, and then our engagement and retention program led by the communications department has completed community research, and we're right in the middle of our annual engagement surveys, which I'm sure those of you who are parents are receiving those surveys to complete. Our last strategy, Strategy 6, is the final one, and this brings all of our departments together because we know it's important for all of us to work together to get to recruit and employ and retain top high-performing educators. This, we're again at a 3.3 and have shown major growth. I'm very proud of the Human Resources Department led by Dr. Dawkins. She and her team have developed a strong recruitment plan, and I don't know for sure, but maybe we have some cookies for them later. These are fortune cookies they're passing out at job fairs, and they say, your future is like an EMS ISD. They're really cute. They've been very creative in this recruitment plan. They're utilizing campus administrators to help with that, as well as coordinators, I believe. Just getting us all involved in that. We also increase our collaboration with universities and colleges. We are moving into our second cohort with our TCU Fellows Program. We will be placing 3 interns next year at the secondary level, and then we'll be focused on the elementary, and they'll go into year 1, and we'll only be working with 1 individual for that. We partner with Texas Wesleyan as well in their bilingual program. We have visited with them about our teacher preparation program and moving into a grow your own and getting them their dual credit. We do grow our own, but we haven't had dual credit for that. So Texas Wesleyan will be, we're looking at working with them to get that. Our professional development has been amazing this year, and our coordinators have worked very hard to model the best practices. When I brought you the district improvement plan, we talked about Tier 1 instruction in depth. And in that, we have at the central office level worked very intentionally to ensure that we are modeling best practices. Our use of the display screens, our use of Fundamental 5, the 5E model, and ensuring that technology is a natural part of the curriculum. So that's where we are with our strategies. Our next work will include the continuous improvement model, as well as continued work with Tier 1 instruction until we see the results that we are seeking in all levels of our assessments. We'll continue to work with Tier 1. Technology rollout phase 1 has been a major part of our time and in planning, and we have just completed the development of a profile of a graduate, and once we fine-tune the graphics, we'll be bringing that to the board to present to you guys. We're excited about where we're going. I always end finally with a quote by Bill Daggett: high-performing schools, high-performing districts have an absolutely crystal clear vision of what they want to accomplish. They have a culture that supports and encourages positive change, and that's what we are at EMS ISD. Any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Parker.
Thank you. I think Jim Shealy owes me a dinner.
All right.
Lunch.
Work that out.
Not by my watch.
I just want, as Debbie's coming up, I just want to acknowledge the team. I know that Dr. Parker mentioned we have several members of our Ed Services team here that were all a part of this, but really, as we know, Aspire is the entire district, and so I just want to thank everybody that's been a part of that. You know, we talk about it now, it becomes so easy, it just kind of is something we're accustomed to, but we don't treat it as something we take for granted. We look at the plan, we work the plan, and we were very, very clear about what our next steps are in order to get to the point that we're at 4.0 all the way across. It won't be very long. It's 2022, we're in 2018, so it won't be very long. We'll be talking about the next plan. So really stretching out there even farther, so we're excited about that. Thank you.
Dr. Dawkins, you have a elementary staffing proposal?
I do, yes, sir. President Newcomb, members of the board, Dr. Chadwell, thank you for giving me the opportunity to present. We're going to be discussing tonight elementary staffing proposal. And so what we have been working with primarily Clede and Bob Templeton's numbers for the upcoming year on using our staff efficiently. So we have set ratios for K through 4 at 22:1. That's the state recommended ratio. And then 25:1. And then we've looked at where our numbers are coming in and how we can best use our staff to stay as close to those ratios as possible. That the goal would be obviously trying not to have too many waivers for TEA, especially starting school or opening the door. So if we can kind of keep our focus K through 4 right at that 22:1. So we will be able to efficiently use our staff. We, I believe, through attrition, retirees, and resignations, and mommies staying home with babies, we would be able to easily take care of these positions. And then also, if we've got any staff movement within the campuses, as you can see, we've got some staff moving where a grade level might be reducing. So you might have a grade level that's growing and then one that's reducing. So it's a lot of campus movement within the campus. So whenever you see the net zero, the principals are easily able to just move staff around to efficiently use that and achieve the goal. I've made some notes on here specifically. For instance, I'll use Chisholm Ridge as an example of monitor enrollment, which is where I'm watching that number. And what I've done is looked at their enrollment. I've watched the enrollment in the prior grade the entire year, and then also the demographer numbers, and then speaking with Clete about, you know, potential growth. So that one is a number that's one of many that we're keeping an eye on. So instead of hiring right away, that we would maybe hold off on that. However, and using the same campus as an example, kindergarten, since that's a projection, what, you know, we've talked about is we could hold off on not maybe hiring that, get through roundup, kind of see where our numbers are at kinder roundup, and then would we better use that position, maybe shift and use a position differently. So I would scroll through. So anywhere I have monitor enrollment, that's something that I'm really going to be watching those numbers with principals. And then in addition, we would hire and post jobs once we have everybody placed, if we need to do any staff transfers. And we've done that before, where we've offered people the opportunity to transfer into an open position. We have, I want to draw your attention to bilingual. If you'll look at Dozier, this is a little bit different, and if you'll look at the footnote, the demographer projections were used for just the regular classrooms, but for the purposes of bilingual, it gave us a much better number to use actually our bodies, like our little, how many do we have over at Halfley? Because that we know that we've got 43 over there, but our projections weren't that. And so in talking with Beth, we had the same situation last year where our projections were a little bit lower than what our actual bodies were, and every single one of those kids came. So we know they're more than likely going to come, so we prepared our numbers for bilingual a little bit differently. We've got a shift in one bilingual teacher, actually, so bilingual remains the same. We've got a growth at Dozier. When we did our, if you'll remember, for Gilliland, so the students at Northbrook in bilingual are going to be moving to Gilliland. And with that, we will be shifting staff. However, we have one additional bilingual teacher, but we have a need at Willow Creek to add one. And we actually have 3 volunteers, so we're gonna do interviews instead of, you know, kind of a last hired kind of a concept. We've got 3 people that it's closer to their house, and, you know, so they're excited about getting the opportunity to interview over at Willow Creek for that. So I'll go to this summary on the last page, and just please stop me if you have any questions as we move through. I won't read all of this specifically. So we would be able to, at this point, I say reduce our staff. It's really using our staff efficiently that we have. And I would hold back a couple of these, though, for growth, where we've got monitor enrollment. So Sheely's got the, you know, we can kind of give him, you know, the positions, but I might need to, you know, pull some and keep them aside as we see our numbers come in. So we definitely wouldn't lose those, you know, all of those positions. It would be using those as we need them for growth. So, but we would be able to have a nice cost savings. So we did not know, if you'll remember last year, we weren't really certain on our impact on ILT and how that was going to affect our district. And so this year we're really making some adjustments in that we held off waiting on to do last year.
So, you know, if we all remember, we made the decision to move forward as if we would not lose any students, and I still feel that that was the right decision based upon the information we had at the time. And this year is where we have to tighten our belt in order to look at actual enrollments and numbers based upon this year's numbers and, of course, projections for next year. But we did learn that ILT as a system is increasing their class size. Their class sizes at all levels is significantly larger than ours at the kindergarten level. It's larger all the way to 12th grade. And so because of that, the capacity of those facilities could be impacted, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will be the one here, because I don't believe they're on a wait list yet
Right.
in Saginaw. So if you increase capacity and you don't have a wait list, then it doesn't necessarily have an impact. So we're looking at all that very, very carefully. I'll say that the team poured over this. This was not just HR. Ed Services looked at this. Operations, Clete Welch looked at this. We looked at patterns and numbers, and there was a lot of analysis, and I just wanted to share that with you all. So we know that it's a significant impact anytime a campus loses a staff member.
Right.
And so we were very careful. Our first blush at this was actually, I believe, 19. And we felt like 12, based upon what we're looking at on projections, is a more adequate number. We're also challenged with the fact we drive around and they're building
There's
houses every
construction,
place.
so-
But the yield on these
Right.
houses are different, as Cleet's talked about. Our yield numbers in neighborhoods have been different, and part of that has to do with the cost of the homes that are being
The cost of
built.
housing, the price point of the house
Yeah,
is.
just yield lower numbers. So
Lower
there's a
numbers.
lot of factors there, so just wanted to bring that to y'all's attention. But I appreciate their work on that.
So we're gonna cut usually you're asking for positions or growth and holding a couple back. So in this case, is the proposal that the budget would be 12 positions less
That's correct.
with none,
That's
with
correct.
none for growth?
No, you said you're gonna hold some.
We can hold a couple back in growth, but, I mean, honestly, I don't think we would need probably more than two.
So what this looks like,
but
we've not seen this before, is
right.
for budget purposes, we're reducing by 12, but we're also stating going into this that if for whatever reason these numbers are off, because there's a huge amount of growth that we weren't expecting, then we would come back with these numbers and use 2 or 3 of those or whatever it would be. As I mentioned, the first blush was a much more aggressive number, and
Higher class ratios.
yeah, and so
We
we
staffed
pull
it.
back on that.
Right.
And so we feel like this number is really takes that into consideration. And so
Is
this,
that gonna go on into secondary also?
we're working on secondary now, but if you remember, the impact of ILT was mainly at the elementary level, less so at the middle school level, and virtually non-existent at the high school
Right.
level. And so we don't see that, although we have gone back in and looked at efficiency numbers to where we actually have to look at the master schedule. When we're looking at these enrollments, in class counts, we look at classrooms. And at the high school level, we look at a combination of programs and total numbers of students. Because it doesn't matter how large or small your school is, you're gonna have French, you're gonna have German.
Right.
Some things that are low enrollment, not low enrollment, but lower enrollment than say like Spanish, for example.
You can't just divide by 25.
No.
It just doesn't work.
So it's more dynamic at the high school level. In fact, we were discussing it today. You might call it different than a discussion as we're talking about it. I mean, we're debating, because we're arguing all sides of it. Because
Right.
if we're wrong on either end,
That's right.
it's a negative. We have too few teachers, then we don't have kids that are served. We have too many teachers, and then it reduces our capacity to serve all kinds of things within the budget, including salaries. So we're looking at it from all angles before we go move forward. And
So I'll bring secondary in the April board meeting.
And you did say this would be handled through attrition, right?
yes,
Definitely.
we are not,
We-
we don't have any plans unless Jim
No.
shocks me now in a
No.
moment.
Put that in here.
That would be,
It's really, I knew that was the
Yes.
case. I just wanted to make sure it was on record.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you said that.
Yes,
Yeah, for all the teachers out there.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
school was I at?
absolutely.
And are you gonna kind of cover this when you get to your budget deal? Okay.
Well, and I just had one other question about, have we done some root cause on the ILT impact? Because I know we have had anecdotally, we've heard a lot of kids come back. So was it a case that they've been replaced with other EMS ISD students?
We
so that's
have,
why we haven't
they've
seen
come
that?
back, but what we've seen is, actually, we talked about this morning in our enrollment numbers. Our enrollment gap has increased by about 22 students, but not because of ILT, but because of actually moving out of the area, including out of the state. So I believe we're seeing some different kinds of mobility that we're having to track. And also we have some neighborhoods that, because of the age of the neighborhood, of turning into more rental properties. And as a result, there's more mobility in those areas, which means that we will have more ebbs and flows. And so we're really having to track things different. Well, every year it's a little different. But particularly with some of those neighborhoods, we're having to track because there's higher mobility than is expected. And then we also have the Mercantile Center apartment complex
Right.
that is opening, and that is bringing some numbers in influx, and we're having to track those, but that hasn't been built as fast as we thought. So
When you say we're having to track it, our demographer is,
our demographer and we, Cleat
We-
is double.
Oh, Cleat tracks it, and we track enrollment
We do
every week.
both.
Every week, we're looking.
They're looking, I mean, they actually drive the communities as well, but we look at them differently. I mean, because we live here every day and we see that some things are tracking differently, and he'll provide that information to them, and there's this give and take, you know. Sometimes Bob says, I see what you're saying, and he'll put it into the numbers. Sometimes he says, no, I really think this is it, and he'll hold by his numbers. So there's a give and take discussion while we're doing this.
thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Dawkins. Next is our Tier 1 and 2 start times. Lisa Dunn.
Good evening, President Newcomb and members of the school board and Dr. Chadwell. I'm here to review and answer any questions you have about Tier 1 and Tier 2 start times for 2018-19. As you know, the legislature, 84th legislature, changed from 180 school days to 75,600 minutes. And as you track minutes, it gets a little bit more complicated. Currently, our Tier 1 campuses, which are 13 of the 15 elementary, attend school from 7:35 to 2:40. And our Tier 2 campuses, which are middle school, Lake Point Elementary, and Gilliland Elementary, attend from 8:25 to 3:30. When you calculate minutes, that gives us no banked days. And when I say banked days, I mean besides the bad weather days that are built into the calendar. And of course, that's problematic in case there's any sort of catastrophes that would cause us to close schools. So for next year, we're going to move into adding just 5 minutes a day. And amazingly, adding 5 minutes per school day will allow us to bank 3 days. And this 3 days will be a cushion for us in case of any sort of weather-related incident, fuel emergencies, illnesses, or things that would cause us to have to shut our campuses down for a day or two. So our Tier 1 campuses, again, those 13 of 15, would start at 7:30 and end at 2:40. And our Tier 2, again, the middle schools and those 2 elementary campuses of Lake Point and Gilliland would go from 8:20 to 3:30. The last slide is, God bless Belinda Newman, who figures all these things out, because it's not as easy as you might say, well, I'll just multiply minutes by days, but it doesn't work that way. There's waivers and things, so Belinda Newman does a terrific job, and we've just kind of broken that down for you so you can see what the total minutes are. I know you saw the FAQs that were in the recent board update, but I want to assure you that our doors will still open at 7:05 and not earlier, and our buses will run the same time as they do this year. So children are not at the bus stops even earlier than they are now. And our teachers don't report for duty earlier than this year. I'm working with Erin Wiley and the Food Nutrition Services to make sure all of our students have breakfast. And so we'll work to make sure that not only did they have breakfast now, but we even increase our breakfast numbers with some ideas that we have for that. So I think all in all, it's just a win-win situation. So
What are we
what
going to do with
questions?
those bank days?
Pardon me?
What are we going to do with them?
Well, if we don't use them, sir, we lose them.
Okay.
So you don't bank and
So
roll
these there
over to
for
the
cushion,
next year.
okay.
It's just there in case of any sort of calamity that might.
So what was it? Now, 4 years ago, we used 5
Yeah,
days,
the
I think it
ice
was.
Mageddon, where we had those
So
5
if that
days.
occurred again, we would have 2 days bad weather, we'd have this, and that would take us through. Because the state's answer, if you go over that, no matter what it is, they'll say, well, you need to go to school. You need to extend your school year or go to school on a holiday or on a Saturday.
That's what's happening up north, I think. You're talking
Yes.
about Saturday school and
Yes.
extending it into the summer.
Well,
and
even in
if you-
Texas, it's occurred as well.
And if you look at the Saturday school attendance or a holiday attendance, it's dismal. And so I think that having this bank days, even though we'll lose them 5 minutes without increasing the number of minutes the teachers have to be there, I think is a good solution. Hopefully we won't
Well,
have
it's
to use
nice
them.
because it also means our bad weather days, which a lot of people, we know attendance on bad weather days, if you go, is not very good because people have already factored them in, like hoping that they won't have to go. We use these first that are in the bank days, so those are backup.
Will we even put bad weather? Because this would
We
put
do.
5, so
We
we'd
do.
already have 5 baked in, we would, because that's what we have today with
We have
when
two.
we
Bad
put on the
weather
calendar, so we're
days.
gonna actually add even more
No,
potential?
no, it's just like it is now. The bank days are built into the schedule, and then we have the bad weather days already identified in the calendar, but those would be the 4th and 5th days used if needed. So unlikely in most years.
Right.
But if they were, then they would be built in.
Any other questions?
And we're good on bus scheduling?
We're good on
with
bus.
this?
Clayton and I have worked with the buses and we're
Still have
good.
30 minutes in if we need.
We still worked it,
I know with all the construction around here, that could be tight, so I'm just making sure.
Some of the driving factors is we did not want to pick kids up earlier, so we didn't pick kids up earlier, and we wanted to maintain our time between routes. So those drove really the schedule and any adjustments.
Cleat's instructions were 30 minutes between 45 minutes between routes. I mean, he gave us the parameters. And so what we're really doing is we're reducing the amount of time that students are held before class starts. You know, they're held in various sundry places at elementary. Some are in the gym, in cafeteria, in the hallway. It just reduces that amount of time.
And it does increase the number of minutes we're teaching every day, obviously, by 5.
By
That's
5
what it
minutes,
is.
right.
But quite frankly, there is actively observing children right before school, sometimes that you want to start. I mean,
Sometimes you want to start
I
earlier.
mean,
but-
they're already engaged with students at
Right.
that time. It simply makes it
Absolutely.
constructive. So,
All right. Thank you.
thank you.
And our final report of the work session is finances. Mr. Sheehan.
Good evening.
14 minutes good enough for you?
Oh, I'm going to move through as quick as I can, sir. These are several issues that have popped up. None of them are critical or require in and of themselves a report, but I kind of put them together because they're things that need to be brought forward. Some of them dovetail into others. We recently had a bond issuance. The results of that issuance were very positive. We had a true interest rate of 3.82. The true interest rate for all of our outstanding bonds is approximately 3.02. That's due largely to the number of refundings that we've had. The market isn't as favorable now as it was a year or 2 years ago, but we still had got a good rate. One of the things that is important, we did have a new underwriting team. That underwriting team started off with $90 million worth of orders for $40 million worth of bonds. So they were able to, in essence, create a bidding war, which brought in a $2 million premium and dropped the interest rate by about 0.4%. 0.4%. Annualized is right at about $3 million savings over the life of the bonds. We were particularly pleased with the number of new buyers. Normally what you see is the same people coming in over and over and buying your bonds. When you look at the group of purchasers that bought in excess of $1 million, about half of them have never bought our bonds before. So we're anticipating that this is going to be positive going forward. After we did our bond sale, Moody's issued a report. I believe it was included in a Friday update. They did a rating on the permanent school fund, which all of the agencies do annually because it backs all of our bonds. They did not change the rating from AAA, nor did they put it on a negative outlook. But numerous times in their write-up, they noted the potential negative impact of the method for financing charter schools, which is exactly the concern that we had when we went out and started looking at our underwriters. They did say that if there is a significant growth in the backing of charter school bonds, that it could negatively impact the rating of the permanent school fund. So I didn't see that one coming. I should have, I guess, but we're waiting for Moody's and S&P, or not Moody's, but Fitch and S&P. But at this point in time, Moody's has issued their report, and it does support all the actions that we took. We started talking about ILT. We had originally anticipated a loss of 400 students. We decided not to ramp back the staffing. We absorbed it into the budget. We actually lost about 750 kids. When we go into next year with Bob's add back, we're still going to be about 300 kids below what we staffed for this year, which is why you're seeing the excess.
We haven't identified 750 specifically to ILT. It could have been other charters as well.
Yes,
and
it could have been.
Could have been virtual schools. So just a combination of all those factors. I just want to make sure because the capacity of that school wouldn't have warranted it.
I guess I should say, the numbers last year were a little over 400 growth. We actually budgeted for about 25 growth, and we're looking at 325 low. So it's about 350 kids below. With the growth that Bob has this year, it's going to put us a little bit above where we were, or what we staffed for, which is naturally, and we can't take that hit again, so it will naturally bring back that number. I did see a board meeting of ILT at the end of February, and there is no expansion in ILT for the upcoming year. However, they did note that they need additional revenue or cut costs to meet debt service requirements and operational costs, which is why they increased their student-teacher ratios. K through 2 is 25 to 1, 3 through 8 is 30 to 1, and 9 through 12 is 32 to 1. I think we're staffed K through 4 at 22, and 5 and 6 at 20.
5th at 25.
25. So that increase is pretty significant. There are several ILT schools. This one, our understanding, does not have a waiting list. I don't know that it's going to have an impact on us, but we are watching it very closely. There was a comment about some of the other things that we're watching. There have been, and will be, some taxpayer-assisted housing coming into the district that is likely to increase our mobility. It's both an inflow and an outflow. We also have the age, as Dr. Chadwell said, number of our neighborhoods, and when a neighborhood matures, you can get some funny actions, because usually what you see is a yield drop and then it'll come back up. So we're watching. Those are not things we've normally had to track before, but we are watching those at this point in time, trying to factor in any qualitative impact it may have on the numbers. There is no indication that there's going to be a slowdown in taxable assessed values, but we're watching that very carefully. A slowdown in taxable assessed values can actually result in a decrease in overall revenue for the district. Denton ISD has had a bit of a slowdown, and they're anticipating that even with $1 billion growth in TAVs, they could lose several $100,000 in revenue. And they're going to grow 450 kids. So it's an anomaly to the finance system. We watch it very closely. It does not affect the state flow of revenue. They will get their money. It's the district that will not get as much. Editorial comment. There was a recent case. We got the notification last week, I believe, that the Supreme Court ruled in favor of several companies that had heavy-duty equipment in the field, in particular, gas compression equipment. The theory behind the lawsuit was that while the equipment cost millions of dollars up front, that once it was in the field, because of the intricacies of the installation and the size of the equipment, that its value was really tied to the potential reserves and lifespan of the well, not the original cost of the equipment. It's kind of like, it's almost an evaluation of the behind the pipe reserves in the gas. So the argument from the appraisal districts was, no, you paid $8 million for it, you put it there, it's still worth $8 million. The Supreme Court ruled on behalf of the companies and against the appraisal districts. We only have one in our district. Estimation is it could cost us $150,000 to $200,000 a year, but we're verifying that. It did not take the value to zero. We're not quite sure what the value is going to be because we're probably going to have to rely on reserve estimates from the company, and I don't know who's going to verify those. So we're waiting to see what happens there.
So Jim, you mind mentioning that it's not a part, that you hadn't factored it in the budget?
Yeah, they had not paid their taxes for several years, I guess in anticipation that they were going to win. So we're not actually going to have a reduction in cash flow or revenues this year. It will, however, on a go-forward basis. We're going to have to adjust our TAVs. Tonight, Dr. Dawkins presented the staffing, or the elementary staffing portion of the budget. There's three big pieces to staffing, and staffing is the biggest piece of the budget. Elementary, secondary, and then additional personnel and pay requests. This is the biggest one we're looking now. They're looking, I say we, like I know. They're looking at secondary. We'll bring that back next month. Behind the scenes, we're working in all the other areas, and we're in pretty good shape. Next month, based on the report that was given tonight and the information that we garner in the next 2 or 3 weeks from the secondary level, we will start giving you preliminary projections for the 2018-2019 budget. So we are on track at this point in time from a time standpoint. It's just we're being very careful till these numbers come in because of the catch-up we're doing from last year. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Shealy. Your report was 3 minutes shorter than Linda's, if that has anything to do with the dinner going on.
High time.
Okay. It is currently 6:00 p.m. on March the 26th, 2018. This board will now recess for dinner and then reconvene in a closed meeting pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act: 551.071, consultation with attorney; 551.072, discussing purchase of real property; 551.074, discussing personnel or complaints against personnel, including contract renewals for district employees; 551.082, considering discipline of a school child or complaint or charge against personnel.
I love them out at
Apply now.
the,
This is a public meeting of the Board of Education of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District. The board is reconvening the public meeting on March the 26th at 7:02 p.m. and will now consider the subject set forth in the posted agenda. Welcome everybody to our meeting. We have to open our meeting Bryson Elementary School, Principal Whitney Wheeler. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to have our Bobcats join you tonight. At Bryson Elementary, we celebrate that our students rock. Specifically, our Bobcats consistently epitomize respect, take ownership for their actions, make good choices, and display kindness towards one another. Inspired by the Jostens Renaissance movement, we look forward to our Rocks rallies where we spotlight our Bobcats that fully represent our targeted attributes. Standing before you are our Bryson Elementary students of character. These special Bobcats were selected by their teachers as students who stand out among their peers for displaying selflessness and supporting those around them. For kindergarten, we have Miss Lily Goldfuss. She is the daughter of Amber and Edwin Goldfuss. Miss Lily's teacher describes her as selfless. She always puts the needs of others before her own and encourages her classmates to do their very best. Lily's favorite part about Bryson is working with her teacher at the teacher table. Lily loves to learn new sight words and reading about dolphins. For first grade, we have Mr. Kyle Cunningham. Kyle is the son of Stephanie and Glenn Cunningham. Kyle's teacher said he is an exemplary student who shows respect and kindness towards everyone he meets. He goes out of his way to make sure everyone feels included and possesses a generous spirit. Kyle's favorite part about Bryson are his friends. He loves spending time playing with them at recess and helping them in the classroom. For second grade, we have Quandry. Mr. Quandry Drexler is the son of Tywanda and Quentin Drexler. Mr. Quandry is known for being responsible, friendly, and being trustworthy. He has the capability of making everyone around him feel special and valued. Quandry's favorite part about Bryson is math class because he loves to solve problems. For third grade, Miss Madeline Ships. She is the daughter of Linda Morano and Curtis Ships. Miss Madeline has a big heart. Her teachers admire her ability to connect with those around her. Madeline often helps her peers with their work and does so with confidence and patience. Madeline loves Bryson because of her teachers and enjoys making new friends. Fourth grade, Gabe Melber. He is the son of Cassie Melber and Christopher Myers. Gabe is an outstanding student who shows strong initiative to succeed. He is diligent, thorough, and very responsible. Gabe's favorite part about Bryson are the friends he has made and the cool experiences he has been able to enjoy, like the fourth grade field trip to the Alamo and the Capitol. For fifth grade, Miss Gwyneth Wheeler. Gwyneth Wheeler is the daughter of Jessica and Colin Wheeler. Gwyneth brings a lot of warmth to Bryson, as she is kind and compassionate. She is sympathetic and supportive to those around her. Miss Gwyneth loves being a Bobcat because she is afforded opportunities to participate in choir and UIL. Cody Young. Cody Young is the son of Sarah and Travis Young. Cody is such a helper. He loves to hand out supplies to his peers while also reminding them of the rules. Cody has a sweet spirit and truly brings a smile to those around him. Mr. Cody loves PE and all the games he gets to play with his friends in the gym with Mrs. Daughtry. School board members, again, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to spotlight a few of our special Bobcats. Your continued support and guidance makes it possible to reach the whole child, and for that, we are extremely grateful.
At this time, I would like for you to please stand and join me in saying the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Please join me in a moment of silence in honor of Max Newcomb, Ona Winders, and anybody in your personal life you would like to honor during this time. Thank you. Thank you for this experience, school board. We appreciate your leadership and hope you know it's a great day to be a Bobcat.
Thank you, Principal Wheeler and Bryson, Bobcats, for opening our public portion of our meeting. We have special recognition tonight. Megan?
Yes, we do. Tonight we are, make sure this other mic's off for feedback. Tonight we are recognizing our Child Nutrition Department for a very special and also familiar award. For the fourth consecutive year, the EMS ISD Child Nutrition Department has earned the Texas Department of Agriculture's Best of the Bunch Award. Say that fast, about 5 times. It's in the Local Products Challenge. The award recognizes school nutrition professionals whose efforts are vital to both the pursuit of academic excellence and the healthy lifestyles of Texans, and it's given to less than 10% of school districts in this state, and we've won it 4 times in a row. So that they should be commended for that. Food products used by EMS ISD include local organic spaghetti squash, Texas grapefruit and oranges, local milk, Texas bread products, and other local organic produce. Spaghetti squash was a featured product in our Harvest of the Month program and was served during National School Lunch Week in October. And each month we feature a different locally grown product on our school menus. Tonight we have with us Erin Wiley and our Megan Martinson, our dietitian and what he calls Queen of Menus. So they are here to represent, and they have received a wonderful certificate from the Texas Department of Agriculture. It reads, "In honor of their efforts to support Texas agriculture and ensure a healthier future for the Lone Star State by serving more Texas products in school meals during the 2017 Local Products Challenge." They've also received an invitation to attend the first ever Business of Numbers and Nutrition Conference in June at the expense of the Texas Department of Ag. So we are excited for them and proud for them and thankful for the way they represent and provide healthy choices for our students. We're going to do a quick Kodak moment.
Sure.
Oh, we have a little friend here too.
That's the picture you need to get. Oh.
This is Ms. Martinson. This is a family affair.
Sure. It's okay.
This is who we work for.
Oh,
Job security.
Congratulations. We really appreciate the work y'all do, and I know our kids do too, having better food. We really appreciate y'all's efforts, and congratulations on the award. All right, we have no oral speakers tonight, so we'll move on to action items. The first is to act on the election of members to the Board of Directors for ESC Region 11, Dr. Chadwell.
Yes, sir. We have an opportunity tonight to vote for the board members for Region 11 Service Center. You'll see those posted in your packet on page 74. Larry Blair is running opposed in place 1. Dennis Hughes and Rita Cook are running for place 4. And J.B. Morgan and Denise Kahn are running for place 7, representing Tarrant County. You'll see the bios for Mr. Morgan and Ms. Kahn in your packet, and so you just have the opportunity there to place your votes towards them.
We have a ballot in our
Yes.
box, so as each of us, I mean, as far as taking an action, the action would be to vote, you're conscious, and then pass them in?
Yes, but then we will vote for a candidate, correct? We send, each board member does, okay.
Right. Should we announce the votes then? Okay.
Okay,
Is it only for Tarrant County, or do we vote for Johnson?
you vote for all.
Oh, okay.
Anybody want to speak for any of the candidates? Didn't think so.
Good bios, whoever put those together.
Service Center did a good job.
Just pass them down to Kristen if that's okay, and we'll, or not. If you don't want to vote, you don't have to. Good. And, all right. Next is to accept certification of unopposed candidates. I'll read it all. Cancel the general election for place 1 and place 2 on the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District. Board of Trustees declare Marilyn Tolbert and Paige Ring as elected members of the Board of Trustees of Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District for place 1 and place 2. Mr. Shealy. Was that the motion?
I would like a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Liz, second by Dick to accept the motion as written. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 6-0. Next is to act on, congratulations, by the way, Paige.
thank you.
And Marilyn, if she's sitting out there.
She could be here.
Okay. Next is to act on recommendations of the 17-18 Board Naming Committee. That was myself, Tim Daughtry, and Kristen Courtney. So we have had a couple of meetings. We've been updating the names to consider for naming, because now as the retirees list gets longer and longer, we're trying to assist future boards by kind of going over past names, not saying they couldn't go back and pick one up. So if y'all have any suggestions, and there's been several mentioned to me tonight, we will meet again to consider naming actual items or buildings or things, but we didn't do any of that in our last meetings. We went over standardizing the biographical plates that are at each of the schools, so that Mr. and Ms. Elkins, that Elkins is the same, you know, we're trying to get those standardized. So we're working towards that. And we're working on some issues with the Marty Medellin, how can I never say that? Thank you, Plaza. But we did have 2 recommendations to bring to the board as a whole. The first is to name the 4th high school that we have the land bought, the Eagle Mountain High School. Colors will be black and gold. The mascot is to be cited as the other 3 classes were by the first graduating class, choosing from 3 board-approved nominated choices. And I think I'll just take them separate. So that comes as a motion from the committee. There's a second.
So moved.
All right, Mr. Elkins. Mr. Elkins made the motion, and Donna seconded. Any questions on that, about timing or anything? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. We have our 4th high school named. Next is to name an elementary school that we purchased the land for, the Copper Crossing Cowboys. And their colors will be cardinal and gold. Copper Crossing Cowboys. Kristen, you want to speak to that?
Copper Creek.
Copper Creek. Did I say crossing?
I was wondering.
Copper Creek Cowboys.
Thank you.
I like that better.
You like that better?
I like what she said better.
All right.
Not
Thank
so
you,
much on the
Kristen.
crossing, but anyway.
I move we approve the Copper Creek Cowboys.
Second.
All right. Thank you for catching that. Copper Creek Cowboys, color cardinal and gold. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kristen and Tim, for serving on that. We have another meeting or 2. Again, if you have some suggestions, please let us know. Next is to act on bids and proposals.
I move we award the proposal of landscape servicing, lawn, ground maintenance district-wide to American Landscaping Systems, Inc. for an annual estimate total of $894,596.
Motion by Donna, second by Liz, to award to American Landscaping. Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 6-0. Next is to act on cabling infrastructure, page 87.
I move we award the proposal of cabling infrastructure job order contract to Comnet Communications LLC as the primary and Superior Fiber Data Services as the secondary for the period of June 1st, 2018 through May 31st, 2020.
Motion by Donna, second by Paige. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 6-0. Next is to designate the competitive seal proposals as the best value method for the safety and security modification to various campuses.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Paige, second by Donna. Mr. Shealy, is that all you need?
That's all I need, sir.
All right. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 6-0. Next is to name an architect of record for the kitchen and security modifications to various campuses.
I move that BLK be named the architect of record for kitchen and security modifications at various campuses.
Motion by Donna, second by Liz. To name VOK as the architect of record. Any questions? None, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carries 6-0. Next is to name an architect of record for the tennis court structures and shade covers.
I move that BLK be named architect of record for tennis court structures at Boswell and Saginaw High Schools and carpet shade covers at Watson High School.
Motion by Donna, second by Liz. BOK be named the record architect of record. Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 6-0. Next is to consider adopting changes to policy DEC local. Jennifer Lyons. She's waiting on the motion, she's waiting, nope.
I'll do, you want to, I move we accept the modifications to DC local as presented.
Second.
Motion by Paige, second by Donna, to accept the board approve the local policy revisions as presented. Any questions on those? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed, and there are none. Motion carries 6-0. Like I did that, Jennifer? Just kind of waited. All right, we did cover all the reports in the 5 o'clock session. Are there any questions on the routine monthly reports? Hearing none. Brings us to the summer hours of operations on page 190. Dr. Chapel, are you going to cover those?
You want to cover that's under routine monthly reports?
Oh, it is, okay.
Yes, sir, but that's fine. We are maintaining the same type of timeline that we did for this year. Summer hours will begin on Monday, June 4th, and end on Friday, August 3rd, with a shutdown week for the week of July 2nd through the 6th. It maintains the Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday hours, just as it has for this year with the Friday shutdown. And so it's very similar to this year's calendar.
And start back up on what day, the 6th?
The district will return to normal hours on Monday, August 6th, yes.
Okay. All right, well, next you have the 2018 board planning calendar.
Okay, if you would look at page 191 of your packet, and actually on 192, it does outline next month's reports. As Mr. Shealy mentioned, finance update will be another important report as all this comes into greater clarity as we get more information. We also will have a secondary, it says additional staffing report proposal. That will also be inclusive of secondary report as well. We have a child nutrition report that will be included with operations, and also a technology report. That is not a standard report in the schedule. That is one we've been working very hard on looking at our technology plan for this next year. You know, we're scheduled to do our phase 1 of our technology plan that was approved by the board this last summer, and so we've been working out the financing for that. There's a lot of moving parts that include purchased materials or equipment and also leased equipment, and we've been also looking at the timeline for phase 2 and 3 to make sure we have the adequate support to put this into place. Also, I'll bring your attention to the board member continuing education report. We're accustomed to that being in December. This is now moving to the new schedule based upon the Senate bill that I shared with y'all previously, and that will be from now on in the month of April.
Okay.
So that'll be
It's kind of same hours?
report.
Is it it's going to cover a little different period from September?
Yes, it will run from after the April board meeting that you'll have till the April board meeting of next year.
So will this
instead of
report,
going January to December, it will basically go May through April of the next year.
and that's what this report will be, May through April?
Well, this report will reflect the same that we
Same
did
thing, okay.
In December.
Unless somebody added, which we don't believe there's any additions since December,
Unless
so.
you've added something since December. It'll be the
Grassroots.
same.
I went to grassroots, so I need to get you that.
Yes,
Okay.
I'll make note of that.
So we'll put a reminder to all the board that if there's additional hours that you've had since December, that we can add those in and include those. Also, Mr. Newcomb, we have the act on proposed budget for elementary 16, and I know that Mr. Welch is working for that, or actually now Copper Creek, so that's the name. That's
Good
awesome.
thing we didn't name it. Well, I almost messed up there.
Copper Crossing.
Our Copper Crossing. Yeah. That's it. Anything else, Dr. Chapel?
No, sir.
All right. Next is the consent agenda for approval.
Second.
Motion by Dick, second by Donna to approve the consent agenda. Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries 6-0. Board President announcements. I just want to thank everybody for being so supportive during a really hard time. So thank all of y'all for the cards and flowers. And I just want to appreciate the family of Eagle Mountain reaching out to me. So I just want to tell all y'all thank you, because I know everybody was contributing some way. So thank you for that. Dr. Chad?
Just echoing what you said, Mr. Newcomb, you know, this has been a hard few weeks in our school district, and I know for Mr. Newcomb in particular. And that's something that struck me in visiting with people, is just that it is a family and it's a community, and a community that cares about itself. The other thing that just really struck me is anytime you're talking about educators, you're talking about a lifetime of contribution to other individuals, and I know for each person, and for your dad in particular, as you listen to people that have been impacted by events that happened 50 years ago, and it was like it was yesterday, because that's the impact a teacher makes on their students. And so I just thank you for having two parents that love people, love kids, and I think they really, it helped me even be clear why our district's special and why it is what it is now. We talk about buildings and infrastructure and decisions that are made and policies, but really it's about people and people who invest in other people and set that standard and expectation for us. So, thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
All right. You want to go over any announcements? You good?
They're on page 226 of your packet.
Okay.
If you'd like to view them.
There you go. Seeing there's no further business to come before this board, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Elkins, second by Liz. We're adjourned.